Okay, so in previous lectures, we have discussed reactions at the anomeric carbon briefly in the context of alcohol nucleophiles and acetal or glycoside formation. So in this video, I want to go through and give some examples of other alternate nucleophiles that can be used, including both intermolecular and intramolecular examples. So first, right, we should identify that electrophilic anomeric carbon. Remember, this is the electrophilic carbonyl-like carbon that is in the +2 oxidation state. And in this first furanose ring here, the only carbon that is bound to 2 oxygen atoms directly is this one in the top right corner. That's the anomeric position. It is the only one that will undergo reaction with a nucleophile. So here we're treating it with the primary amine, which has a nucleophilic lone pair, and some weak acid buffer, such as acetic acid, that's setting the pH between 4 and 5. So once again, in an acidic or acid catalyzed mechanism, the first step is generally protonation of the heteroatom that's bound to the electrophilic carbon. And that protonation is going to generate a more electrophilic carbon, which bears a good leaving group. In other words, we now have water, which will quickly dissociate. All of the other alcohols could be protonated, but that would not lead to a reaction since they are alcohols and are not bound to the anomeric carbon.